Hi, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mabrito CBD. Now in our first story, day one of former President John Mahama's election petition took off at the Supreme Court Thursday. Now, this was, however, not without some controversy, as lawyers for the Electoral Commission and President Akufo-Addo opposed a request by Mr. Mahama to be allowed to correct mistakes in the petition. The 2020 NDC presidential candidate earnestly requested in his petition that the court allows a runoff between himself and the EC. The request to correct that mistake was granted despite opposition from the EC and Mr. Akufo-Addo's lawyers. Court correspondent Joseph Akable sat through the proceedings and now reports.
So the case is being heard by Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah and Justices Yawapeu, Mafusau, Nena Megacha, Professor Kote, Mariama Owusu and Gertrude Tokonu. Mr. Mahama's legal team first asked that the court allows them make corrections to the petition that has been filed. Mr. Chachutikata informed the court that there was an inadvertent error that had led to the team asking for a runoff to be organized between Mr. Mahama and the Electoral Commission instead of Mr. Akufo-Addo. Lawyers for the Electoral Commission led by Justin Amenuvo and the President's legal team led by Akoto Ampao opposed the request. Their explanation was that there was a mistake in the request that is seeking to correct a mistake, in that instead of asking to amend the petition, it rather is asking to amend a writ. And so they had pointed out that the court does not allow it. But the court went on recess and returned, and the Chief Justice Kwesi Enin-Yeboah indicated that the request does not go to the substance of the petition, so it has granted a request for the changes to be made.
We grant the amendment in the 10th stage. Let the amended process be filed by the close of the day before 4:12 p.m. today. Yes, the respondents are at liberty to amend their respective answers to the petition on or before 4:12 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, the 15th of January 2021. The petition is thus adjourned until the 19th of January 2021.
We caught up with Mr. Abraham Amaliba, a member of the NDC's legal team, who has been explaining why they made that particular request.
So all we need to do is to go out there and file it with the Supreme Court, the registry, and that is what is to be done. So this is something we have already done, and what is left is for us to file.
The point your colleagues on the other side made was that you made a mistake by referring to it as a writ instead of a petition.
But that is what I indicated to you, that this is an exhibition. No. This is an exhibition of the trademark incompetence of the EC. Because what we filed was a petition and not a writ. And so for them to come up and say that we were making reference to a writ, when indeed on the face of the document was a petition, it's a clear indication of their incompetence.
A member of the President's legal team, Frank Davis, however, disagrees, and he says that it shows that humans make mistakes, and that is the essence of the case that will be arguing in this particular matter.
It was obvious from the outset that they had committed errors and mistakes in the petition they filed. This was said by the lead counsel himself, Chachutikata, that they were going to correct the mistakes. We were opposed to the application in form and substance, but as you heard the court say, we are all human beings and we make mistakes. So the court ruled that even though they had made mistakes, it would permit them to amend so that the first respondent they intended to contest with in their petition is reverted to second respondent, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic. So that was what happened. In essence, the court is telling all of us that we make mistakes. So we should be kind to the errors committed by others.
On 19th January, the court will be sitting yet again, but there are some outstanding issues that it has to deal with. Key amongst them is the matter relating to the initial objection that lawyers for the Electoral Commission and Mr. Akufo-Addo's legal team have already raised. There is also the issues about the pre-trial matters, how the case itself should proceed, how many witnesses to be called to testify orally, which evidence should be made available, at what extent should those evidences to be presented to the court, and what presentation should take place. All those are outstanding issues that the court will address on January 19th. Reporting for Joy News from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
The fight over control of Ghana's parliament continued on Thursday with both the NPP and NDC unwilling to cede to the other. According to the leader of the NPP caucus, the decision by the Famina MP to do business with their side gives them a majority of MPs. The NDC caucus, however, disagrees, insisting there is no absolute majority in the House. Leader of the NDC caucus, Haruna Idrisu, has been making a case for the control of the House to be split equally.
From the official correspondence from the Electoral Commission, clearly neither the NDC nor the MPP has majority in Parliament. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the media, nobody should be engaged in any fruitless effort to add on what he or she does not possess or have. By official record, the Parliament of Ghana is one of equal strength and equal numbers, 137, 137. It's never happened under our democratic history, and in particular under the Fourth Republic. It's unique, and it counts in its wake with its own opportunities and challenges that we all must seek to address. Now we have heard that the Famina independent MP.
But leader of the NPP caucus, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, insists the NPP plus Famina constitutes majority in Parliament. Mr. Chair Mensah-Bonsu also explains why Alban Bagwin's role as Speaker was by consensus and not the outcome of an election.
Ghana's Parliament is not an even number Parliament. Ours is an odd number Parliament. And the rules of our Parliament were to deem Bagbin as having been elected and allow for, and I'm quoting myself, allow for cooler heads to prevail. So Bagbin was to be in the chair for 2 weeks. We allow for cooler heads to prevail, and thereafter we have a real run for the office of the Speaker. When I put this down, my colleagues then reclined. 138 ballots were outstanding to be counted, and that, to all intents and purposes, all 138 votes were for Bagbin. And I said, by what stretch of imagination? Because in counting out this one, 137, we had to pull out one as being a spoiled ballot. So by what stretch of imagination can you conclude that all 138 would be valid votes cast for Bagbin? It explains why at the end of the day, when the clerk came to make the announcement, he did not refer to any numbers. That candidate A had these numbers, candidate B had these numbers. On account of the fact that candidate B had much more numbers than candidate A, candidate B is declared the winner. He couldn't have said so because the process was truncated, right? So when he came to us, what's the language? He said, this morning, Parliament met to conduct elections, to elect a Speaker. It says, in the processes leading to the declaration of the results, an unfortunate event happened, arising out of which leadership had to engage in consultations. I'm quoting the very language of that communication from the clerk, who then was doubling up as the chairman for the occasion, in the absence of the Speaker. So he said, accordingly, that is ensuing from that consultation, I am holding the Honorable Bagbin to take the chair as the Speaker of this House. So it was not predicated on any numbers, but that was part of the consensus.
Executive Secretary of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, Kofi Annan, has dispelled rumors that the basic education certificate exams has been scrapped as part of the ongoing high school curriculum reforms. Mr. Annan also described as untrue speculation that diversity, as captured in the key features of the new Common Core program, is a subtle way of introducing the controversial comprehensive sexuality education program into schools, arguing the terminology is to accommodate divergent views. He's been speaking with my colleague, Latif Idris.
The document that was flying was suggesting that BEC is going to be scrapped. As of now, those who are in GHS2, GHS3, they are running the old curriculum. So they will write BEC. Those who are going to GHS1 now, the discussion is still ongoing. So as a nation, we all have to study, we all have to discuss, everybody's opinion has to be shared as to what we should do to these children to ensure that they transit to SHS without barriers. All of us have diversity of ideas. Even when it comes to religion, do I say that someone is a Muslim, so he is an enemy? No. You see, so those are the issues, but not about lesbianism and other things and so forth. We are not there. So our culture frowns. Our culture frowns on that. And one thing we must all bear in mind is that when we say the curriculum of a nation, the content is the culture of the people. So what is our culture? Do our culture say that man should marry man, woman should marry woman? Even there have been another debate. Those who came to us and told us that we must have only one wife, though the women are more. Now they have come to us, they say a man should marry man. So they themselves, are they right in that sense?
Talk about curriculum, we also look at the syllabus. We understand the teachers who are supposed to take the GHS students through this new syllabus have not had the training that they need to have before the academic work begins in the various schools. Something that we took
More than a year to develop, and you take 5 days to train the teacher. He cannot acquire everything. And then also after the training, he's not also applying it. It's like we are learning computing skills, and we have put the computer somewhere, and we have gone to school for some few weeks and months. When you come and you put it, some of the skills are lost. So in order not to make them lose these skills, let us wait so that they do the intervention. Then by the 9th week that they are supposed to start, by that time when we go for semester break, we will be able to close the gap there, get an intervention, and train them and equip them with the basic skills that they would need to roll out the CCP curriculum. This year, we are going to start with primary 4. We are going to run the insert for primary 4, and probably it will happen late in November or early December 2021.
So and this year is dedicated to
primary 4. Because we are looking at the situation. You know, last year, the children couldn't have the opportunity to have a full academic year. So if you are going to assess KG1, KG, even our examination insert starts from primary 2. So the primary 2 people now are those who did not even complete primary 1. So if they are in primary 2, what assessment models are you going to use? Yeah. Will you really get some response that will be a true reflection of the academic achievement or progress of that child? So we feel if you go to primary 4, that will set the basis.
Until now, the story of Nshiasu, a farming community in the Asante Achebe North District, was that of despair, neglect and misery. Pupils and their teachers lived in a life-threatening dilapidated school infrastructure. Girls who traveled several kilometers to nearby Ananikrom to access GHS were often sexually assaulted by herdsmen. The herdsmen also constantly attacked settler farmers who lacked basic amenities such as potable water, electricity and motorable roads. Ohimingtiria reports of a remarkable change of fortunes in that community following a Joy News Agenda story.
Life in this farming community was characterized by despair as herdsmen threatened the only livelihood of residents here. Many settlers were forced to abandon their homes of many years for fear of coming under attack. It was double anguish for school children and their teachers who were forced to study under life-threatening dilapidated classrooms.
The first time I visited the area, but I was shocked to see how teachers were able to manage to teach the kids because the atmosphere was not conducive for teaching and learning.
Female students who trekked several kilometers to nearby Ananikrom to access junior high school education were sexually assaulted by herdsmen. A Joy News agenda which highlighted the plight of residents was enough to put Inshaeso community on the road to remarkable recovery and identity. MTN Ghana Foundation has since built and handed over a fully furnished 6-unit classroom block and a teacher's bungalow to the community. That perhaps has opened the community for more development. World Vision Ghana provided a borehole and government has extended electricity to the community while roads have improved. Inshaeso is now the toast of many.
The project has also attracted a lot of people coming to the community. Even World Vision has also dug a borehole because of the project that is coming there. And the assembly is also extending electricity.
Assembly member for the area, Peter Abaji, says a lot of people are relocating to the community.
We have been able to get water, that is borehole. We have gotten electricity. Ohimiteria and multimedia have done a fantastic job and they've really helped our community.
For residents, access to basic amenities has brought a new life to Inshaeso.
Life is now sweet. Life is now good at Inshaeso community.
Officials of MTN Ghana Foundation are happy at the positive developments. They say the development explains the telecom giant's mantra of brightening lives. Robert Kuzo is a senior manager at MTN Ghana Foundation.
It's a good feeling for MTN Ghana Foundation to see that a project of such nature has actually awakened other organizations, to also go into that community and look at what is needed to complement what MTN Ghana Foundation has done there.
Robert Kuzo is grateful to Joy News for the intervention that has changed the lives of many people.
We are grateful to Multimedia for the opportunity for bringing this to the fore of the MTN Ghana Foundation. And we continue to urge you to look around the communities that really have genuine need of this nature, and it will be taken to our board of directors for consideration.
From Inshaeso in Asante Achim North for Joy News, Ohiminteria reporting.
That's it for the AM News with me, Mapita Sibidi. The show continues with Mama V.
Oh, hello there. Thank you so much for still staying with us here on the AM show. Thanks to Mapito Sibidi for bringing us the AM News. It's myself and Joseph Akable in studio. We will run you through what's in the headlines this morning. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is also joining us via Zoom. So, can we say good morning to you? Joseph Opoku Gakpo, if you can hear me. Let's see your face. Your handsome face.
Good morning. Hope you're doing good.
Oh, there you are. Why are we wearing the same thing? Why are we wearing the same thing here? Oh, are you frozen?
I thought you were coming with a maths and science quiz question, so I got frozen along the line.
I have a question actually. I just didn't think you'll be up for it. Should we do it? Joe, you're a bit slow. Should I wake you up?
Oh, I'm fine.
Should we do it?
I'm always up for any...
Should we do it?
No, I'm answering a question. I mean, you should give me the latitude to answer.
Don't give me a courtroom response.
I'm always ready for any contest that involves Joseph Opoku Gakpo.
Okay. Guys, are you ready?
Go, shoot, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Listen, I have to bring in the board, okay? So, Opoku Gakpo, I'll give you maybe like a second to grab a notepad and a pen because you have to write things out. I don't want you to make excuses.
Let me do that.
So do that.
Let me do that. 30 seconds.
In here, I'm going to get a board and a marker so that you do yours because you tell me, give me paper or something. All right. So whilst we get that ready, Joseph Opoku Gakpo will be taking us through the Finder newspaper and the Ghanaian Times. I've got the Daily Graphic and the Finder. So I'll just start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here's what's on the front page of the paper. NPP, NDC agree on seating in parliaments. Remain faithful United President Akufo-Addo urges party loyalists. But the banner headline on election petition, Supreme Court allows to correct error. And that's the biggest news from yesterday's court's hearing. Can we say day one? Because we actually saw them and the panel being composed to sit on the case. Joseph Akable was in court. He'll give us all the backstory. But in the center spread, price of eggs go up following rising cost of feed. Contractors appeal to government to settle debts. UDS constitutes COVID-19 response committee. That's a very important one. It says the University for Development Studies, Tamale, has constituted a COVID-19 response committee to ensure the safety of students and staff of the university as it prepares to commence academic activities. And the price of eggs in the Bono region, considered to be one of the hubs for the production of the commodity, has risen by about 50% within the last 2 months, causing concerns among poultry industry players. The price of a crate of egg, which was between 13 Ghana cedis and 18 in November last year, depending on the size of the eggs, is now between 20 Ghana cedis and 25 Ghana cedis. You know what that means. For those of us in Accra who were buying it for 25 Ghana cedis, we are now buying it for about 30, sometimes 32 Ghana cedis. Wholesalers in the region have expressed concern about the situation, especially the decision by customers in Accra and Tamale not to allow them to deliver their weekly consignment due to the high price of the product, which includes transportation, handling, and other associated costs. I have to ask you this question, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, because of your specialty in this agric sector. What's up with the eggs? What's their situation?
It's a bigger problem with maize to feed the chicken, or for that matter, the hen, or the poultry that ends up producing the egg. Following the shortage of maize across the country, leading to a situation where we are being forced to import a lot of it, it's been more expensive managing poultry because maize remains their main source of food. And that's also leading to a hike in the prices of maize, the prices of eggs to a certain extent. I bought 2 eggs yesterday from a regular customer where I used to buy it for 1 cedi, and I bought each for 1 cedi 50 pesos. I was surprised, and I asked her, and she said it's difficult to come by egg these days.
True. I got the same feedback from Auntie Susie just down here. She wanted to tell me that price now cost true before I place the order. And then just at the traffic lights, there's a woman that sells eggs. That's where I get my eggs.
A couple of days ago, I saw on social media people were complaining about the price of Kosiani Meko. You know Kosiani Meko, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you, I think they're selling it for 1 cedi 50 pesos now.
Oh,
right.
1 cedi, because it used to be 1 cedi, selling for 1 cedi 50 pesos. Okay, guys, I want to tell you my question so you think about it, okay? Are you ready, Opoku-Gakpo?
Always ready.
Don't tell me the internet is not stable.
That's my pen.
Okay. So, Mr. Kumsin is Ato's father. Mr. Kumsin is 35 years old. 3 years ago, Mr. Kumsin was 4 times as old as his son was then. How old is Ato now? Question again. And this is to all of you also watching the show. You might want to try this Friday trivial question and then let me know. Okay, so here's a question. Mr. Kumsing is Ato's father. Oh, you're starting. Mr. Kumsing is Ato's father. Mr. Kumsing is 35 years old. 3 years ago, Mr. Kumsing was 4 times as old as his son was then. Question, how old is Ato now? If you think you can solve this problem, let me know. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, you're on Zoom. Did you get my question?
Things froze along the line. But I'll do a playback and try to get the answer before I can believe in it.
But you're solving. Are you solving it?
I'm on it, so don't worry.
Okay. So I'll give you maybe like a minute. Oh.
I've not worked it yet.
Okay. All right. So let me do the final. Should we do the papers and then we'll come back to it?
Papers.
Okay. Let me okay.
No, I've not worked it yet. This is a summary of the question.
Okay, let me do the back page of the Ghanaian, the Daily Graphic. I think I skipped it. So the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Rainstorm renders over 100 people homeless at Seikwa. Residents of Seikwa in the Tyne districts of the Bono region had a nightmarish experience in the early hours of last Tuesday when a rainstorm hit the area and rendered more than 100 residents homeless. Properties worth thousands of Ghana cedis, which were destroyed in the rainstorm, included houses, worship centers, and school buildings. Residents say the rainstorm, which started last Monday evening and continued into the early hours of Tuesday, ripped off the roofs of many buildings, including the Roman Catholic Basic School. And that's coming at a time when children are preparing to go back to school. Definitely not good. NADMO Director General visit fire scenes in Kumasi is also another story on the back page of the Daily Graphic. So guys, are you ready, or you're just thinking about the question I asked? Are you putting it on Google?
No, I'm not putting it on Google,
Okay.
Let's do the front page of the Daily Guide now. It has this question says, Mahama granted amendment request, and NPP maintains majority, NDC sits on minority side. And Chief Justice probes Muntaka bribery allegation, also on the front page. And stop blame game, Nana tells NPP. And Kabi shot dead is also another story on the front page of the Daily Guide. The back page says, Partey's ex-coach released after attempted kidnap. Has a photograph of Isaac Kojo Ibrahim. It's a story that has to do with some money that we are told came down. You know, when the players are signed for the big clubs, sometimes it includes development fees. So it is paid to the teams that groom the player in his very early stages. So we are told that the founder of this particular team had died, and so the money was paid to the coach, and the family, they were trying to get the money from the coach. And the story that the Daily Guide brought us 2 days ago was that the coach was missing. And so we are told that he's been found after an attempted kidnapping. It doesn't talk about the money though, what has happened to the money. It's 750,000 euros. Okay.
You know when they say money is evil, eh?
Yeah, the root of all evil. Bechem United trainer is NASCO coach of the month. It's also on the back page of the Daily Guide. The center spread, Bulldog granted 70,000 CD bail. And 2021 Black Star International Film Festival kicks off. And Afrobeats gem Lamy drops eye. Yeah, okay. Registrar General's Department moves to curb extortion, also on the center spread, in the center spread. And the final one in the center spread, government still agree. And there's this other story about the FDA cracking down on unregistered imports. And so those are the main stories for the Daily Guide.
Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, is it true that there's been a determination in terms of the majority-minority in parliaments?
I can't confirm that. What I know for certain is that the NPP side will, this morning, when the House resumes sitting, officially ask Speaker Alban Bagbin to pronounce on them being the majority. As in, they will argue their case, and we expect the NDC side to argue otherwise, for the Speaker to eventually pronounce on that. What I recall hearing Haruna Idrisu, the leader of the NDC side, say yesterday at the media briefing was that when it comes to who should sit on which side of the Speaker, they, the NDC, would not mind sitting on the left-hand side of the Speaker, because for them it doesn't matter. The standing order doesn't even stipulate that. It's just become a convention over the years. So they will not mind taking the left-hand side. But the NDC is insisting that there is no absolute majority, although the NPP is claiming that NPP platform now gives them 138, which is majority, and that the Speaker will be asked to rule on that later today. I don't know that, you know, I can't confirm that they've already agreed on that.
Okay. Was that the only thing the meeting was supposed to address yesterday?
So the meeting over the last 2 days, that's actually the very fundamental point as to which side will constitute majority, which side will constitute minority. But there's been other demands from the NDC side as well, that once you have a situation where it's 137, when it comes to the chairmanship of the various committees. For example, there are 16 select committees apart from the standing committees, which have already a definition of who should chair the standing committees. For example, the appointment committee is supposed to be chaired by the first deputy speaker. The business committee is supposed to be chaired by the leader on the majority side. But when it comes to the chairperson of the committee, the 16 select committees like Committee on Health, Committee on Education, and all the rest, it's not determined. So the NDC wants to have 8 of the chairmanship of those. The NPP is insisting that we hold the majority, we should rather chair those. So that's the other outstanding thing. And the other bit was the bit about who sits on which side of the speaker. Those were the 3 main outstanding things.
Okay.
But once it gets determined who constitutes majority, virtually everything else falls in place.
Okay. Because those positions of chairpersons have not been on the table where there is a clear majority in Parliament in terms of the numerical strength in the past.
So what we've seen over the years is that any party that has the clear majority chairs all the committees except Public Accounts Committee and Subsidiary Legislation Committee. The NPP wants to stick to that situation as has unfolded over the years. And then the NPP wants to stick to that. The NDC wants a change. In fact, the new standing orders makes a recommendation on changes that would have given whoever the opposition party is, public accounts, government assurances, subsidiary legislation, and then give government side 5 other committees, and then it says the rest of them, a decision should be taken based on the numerical strengths.
Okay.
So the new standing orders would have allowed for that, but those new standing orders were never approved in the last parliament. And now we gather that a new committee has been set up to look at it and recommend its possible approval, which will then allow for the splitting as is being demanded by the NDC.
Okay, but Joseph, how about this current, this standing orders, what Parliament operates with now? Is it clear?
It says the committee should be constituted based on the different shades of opinions as exist in Parliament. That's the only explanation it gives for how those committees should be constituted. Except that by convention, then, the committees get set up based on the recommendations of a special committee of Parliament chaired by the Speaker of Parliament himself at the beginning of every session of Parliament. So over the years, the recommendation has been that the majority chairs, whoever has the absolute majority chairs, and the minority then holds the ranking position on the various committees. But now there is a suggestion for a change, which has still not been agreed on.
Okay, so we'll see how that plays out when the Speaker speaks today, because Parliament sits today, 15th of January. All right, so Joseph, Akable has started off answering the question, but you go through with the papers that you have, and then I'll give you a bit of time to solve your problem question, okay?
I have the answer already. If you needed it now, I've given you. But once you want me to go through the papers, let me just go ahead.
Please, let's do the papers.
Yes, so the Finder newspaper, there's a very bizarre story about the police locking up a Finder reporter for filming an altercation between a policeman and a driver. Very bizarre story. That in the story, then there's a call for investigation into that. The insistence being that this happened in a public space, so anyone could have filmed, and that the police had no business picking up the Finder reporter. It's on the front page as well. Supreme Court grants Mahama leave to correct errors. We've gone through that story already. Ghana Medical Association fears exponential rise in COVID-19 cases. We have the GMA officials at the front page there. And then GBA asked Muntaka to substantiate bribery allegation. That's also on the front page. The GBA the statement yesterday making that demand. And then President Akufo-Addo has been speaking. He says, stop the blame game and remain focused. Nanado charges the NPP. Let me move on quickly to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the back page of that paper, there's a story about work on the secondary Takoradi Modern Market progressing. And then there's a story about the 10-man bridge becoming a death trap. And then a very interesting story about Bulldog, that popular entertainment personality, being granted a 70,000 Ghana cedi bail for allegedly threatening the president. And just to read the first paragraph of that story, Lawrence Nanesiama Hansen, known in showbiz circles as Bulldog, has been granted a 70,000 Ghana cedi bail with 3 sureties by an Accra Circuit Court for allegedly threatening President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That's the other story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Well, the front page of the Ghanaian Times, NDC selection petition, Supreme Court orders live coverage as it grants John Mahama's motion. And then there's the reference to the majority and minority stalemate in Parliament, and the indication that Calm, is returning to Parliament as the NDC and NPP caucuses, dialogue today.
It's just a bit about the banner headline on the election petition that's not so clear, because the Supreme Court had said it had taken its own decision to telecast the proceedings live, and so the request was not even allowed to be moved. It's just, I'm not sure SC orders live coverage is what you would use to represent what played out yesterday, even before, some of the issues where they delved into some of the issues. But
it's even contained in the adjudication manual that there should be a live telecast of whatever proceedings as far as an election petition presidential is concerned. But
ultimately, the Supreme Court determines if they're going to do it, and they had apparently decided that they were going to do it even before that request was moved yesterday.
Joseph, I'm just seeing something on Facebook, very interesting. Sheila Battles, the MPP MP.
Is it Ablekuma North?
She's just posted on Facebook.
Yes.
She's just posted on Facebook. It's a verified handle with a photograph of herself, and it reads, "It is worth noting that for today's sitting of Parliament, myself and other members of the majority arrived within the presence of Parliament as early as 4 a.m., looking forward to a fruitful engagement on the business of the day. Good morning and have a great day." This was posted 54 minutes ago. And
she's in Parliament already? And Parliament was set at what, 10 a.m.?
Everyone wants to sit. It's interesting that they're taking it seriously. The NDC beat them to it on the 9th of 6th January. Looks like they are poised to beat the NDC back to it.
As for 4 a.m., I'm very sure that it's beating the NDC.
Oh my goodness. Okay, the issue with the police locking up the final reporter is quite bizarre. I've just been trying to understand the details. The officer whose name was given as Sergeant Solomon Taki had been incensed by the video recording which the reporter Solomon Bogbiji had done of him after he had stopped the trotro the reporter was in. The incident occurred at the Legon bus stop when the officer spotted the driver's mate of the said trotro having his upper body outside of the vehicle, calling for passengers as mates usually do. When he got to the vehicle, which had moved on to the bus stop after the Legon runabout to park, despite directions from the incensed policeman to park immediately, he instructed the driver to get out while instructing the passengers to disembark. This call displeased the passengers who had been wondering what offense the driver, one Rashid, had committed. It was at this point that Sergeant Taki said it was the mates who was the offending party. That's not all. I mean, there's a lot in the story. I'm not sure if we start, we will finish. So we're just going to note the situation down. Let me get you guys to solve your problem question, and then
I'm done with mine. So if he's not done, I can just do it. I mean, he will
explain your explain.
So
your
let's
answer.
find out whether he has an answer first.
Gafo's connection, we lost the connection.
As usual.
I think it's genuine. Okay, so don't draw any conclusions. I can solve your problem.
Explain. Okay, so the question indicated that Kumsin is 35 years.
Yes, sir.
And it says that 3 years ago, he was 4 times as old as Atto. And they are asking us to find how old Atto is now. And so first, I noted that Kumsin is 35. So 3 years ago, he was 4 times as old as Atto. So it means that when you pick Kumsin's age of 35 and you take out 3, it should be 4 times as old as Atto was. So 35 minus 3, you get 32. Is equal to 4x. Then obviously you want to take out the...
So this was the age 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
32.
So you divide by 4. So 4 cancels 4. 4 into 32 gives you 8. So it means that 3 years ago, Atu was 8 years. So how old is Atu now? 8 plus 3 gives you 11. So to show that the answer is correct, you now have to go back to 3 years ago and go to 32. So 3 years ago, Kumsin was 4 times as old as Atu. Atu was 8 then. So 4 by 8 gives you the 32 age. And so Atu now is 11. And this is, you know, I used to teach mathematics.
Oh.
Yeah. I got A1 in elective maths for what it's worth. I need to state that.
Well, no, but this is super impressive. Very impressive.
You just don't trust me.
Oh,
and Opoku Gakpo, for the records, escaped.
No, he has. Let's try again. My producer, my director, is he back? Ayeka. Okay, for your prize, what's your favorite 90s song?
Ooh.
Yep.
California Love is from the 90s, right?
I'm not sure I know that.
Your producer should know that. Tupac, I mean, everyone knows California Love. I mean...
Yeah. Is it from the 90s?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is from the 90s. I mean... If you...
Echo, talk to me, eh? He has to win something.
Yeah.
And if it means dropping the sound...
Either you give me California Love, anything from Rockstone back in the day. I mean, I like.
Okay, we will give you what we can give you, but you know we can't do such a good job. There's DJ Black, there's Andy Dusty, there's Sammy Forsey. They're going to be rocking everybody from 7 p.m. It's the virtual 90s jam. Yeah. So congratulations on getting this right. And yeah, enjoy it, okay?
I know how to party. Mathematics.
Well, thanks for staying with us. We've got sports coming up with Gary Al Smith, and then we'll come back and discuss the big issues, particularly the election petition. We've got one of the spokesperson on John Dramani Mahame's side, Dr. Basit Bamba, is joining us for a conversation. And on Nana Kufuado's side, we've got Kujo Ponkroma. That conversation comes up right after sports, so please stay with us.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the AM Sports. I'm George Addy Jr. standing in for Gary Al Smith. And it's a special weekend to look forward to. I'm sure your expectations are that high regarding your clubs here in Ghana and across the oceans. But we'll first of all start with stories on the local scene. And Black Stars defender Jonathan Mensah says the success of leading Columbus Crew to win the MLS Championship and having played over 100 matches should make sense to those who criticize his decision to play in the MLS. Now, despite a lack of playing opportunities in the senior national team since his move, Mensah believes he is still the best defender in the country, citing the number of games he has played as a testimony.
I wouldn't say I regret any decision that I made based on me moving to the MLS, and I don't think I sacrificed anything for the national team. I'm always sacrificing personally, but I don't believe me moving to the MLS. I sacrificed my national team playing time for anything else because I want to be in a place where I'm doing well so that the national team will call me and I'll come help the team. So if that move pissed someone off, they didn't have my interest in being part of the team, that is not my problem to think about or to solve. So I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to keep doing my best. I'm going to always represent Ghana outside Ghana the best possible way that I can. The rest, I leave it to God to handle that. So I don't have any.
Jonathan Mensah there, setting the tone for, some headaches for the senior national team head coach, Siki Akono, when it comes to deciding who should get into the Black Stars team, preparing for those all-important African qualifiers that will take place later in March. Let's still stay on the local scene. And General Secretary of the Ghana Football Association, Prosper Harrison-Ado, has revealed plans of the FA to introduce e-ticketing as a measure to reduce the risk of spreading COVID-19. My colleague Mubarak Haruna has the rest of the story.
Ahead of the match day 8 of the Ghana Premier League, the government gave supporters the green light to troop into match venues, but with a maximum of 25% capacity. Fans who went to watch their clubs were made to follow strict COVID-19 protocols, such as washing of hands, wearing masks, and observing social distancing. Also, in the bid to further close all gaps, which could potentially lead to the spread of the deadly virus, the Ghana Football Association have the intention of introducing online ticket sale to help ease congestion at match venues.
All options are available to the FA, and we're considering all options. So it's on the table. It's on the table. Selling advance tickets helps, and it's something that we've even discussed at various levels, including our meetings with the COVID-19 response team. It's one of the key things. You will notice that Kotoko did advance sale of tickets. So it's something that we are for, and we'll look at it more and more going forward. So it is an option.
Prosper also entreated fans to obey the COVID-19 protocols before, during, and after matches.
Our COVID protocols are working, not to the fullest, and so we continue to engage the clubs and the various stakeholders to ensure that it works fully. But it depends on all stakeholders, including the supporters themselves. I've been to the Accra Sports Stadium. You notice at the gates, people going into the stadium are wearing masks. Now they go to their seats, they sit down, and then people take their mask off and put it in their pockets, which should not be encouraged. So we plead, and we urge all fans who go to the various stadiums that the mask, we've called for the mask for a purpose. So it's not only to enter, it's also to be worn during the game. I know sometimes it's discomforting, but you have to compare that with what we are dealing with. We are dealing with a very dangerous disease.
The country's football governing body is hopeful that the government would increase the 25% capacity at match venues in the course of the season.
That was a special report by Mubarak Haruna. But, well, there are still a number of questions that need to be answered by the Ghana Football Association. For instance, there was a beautiful list that gave us an idea of the various Ghana Premier League grounds and the capacities. So, for instance, the Accra Sports Stadium is supposed to fill up to 10,000 of fans when any game is ongoing right now in this COVID era. But my question is, how do the Ghana Football Association know exactly that there are 10,000 people in there if you're not going down the e-ticketing line? It needs to happen, or else we're not able to even get down the numbers. And many of the numbers that were thrown around also look pretty, not realistic, in terms of what we're looking out for. So it's a special area as we see how we can go around this. Let's now talk about the fixtures to come. We'll first start with the Ghana Premier League fixtures for this match day. It's a special one. So much is happening, so much is ongoing, and so will be special to see how it goes. Now, Inter Allies host Great Olympics this evening at the Accra Sports Stadium, and it's a good opportunity for Yao Preko, who just got into the boat of Great Olympics, relieving Arno Walker, who's not feeling well at the moment. In that job will be very special to see what they do when Inter Allies play against Great Olympics. Then we've got Liberty Professionals up against the Botswana Dwarfs. We have Wafa against Asante Kotoko. It's a special game. We've got live commentary for you on Joy 99.7 FM on Sunday. Then there's Accra Hearts of Oak up against 11 Wonders. Ken Faisal will play Elmina Sharks. Ashanti Gold, they're up against Midiama SC. Should be a really tough battle there. Adriano Stars up against Legon Cities. Bechem United up against Dreams. And there's Karela up against Brecum Chelsea. That's for the Ghana Premier League match day 9 fixtures, and we're following that. We're lucky to have the Women's Premier League back. The Ghana Women's Premier League is back. So, yeah, we're following all of this. There's a special as well on the Sports Review tomorrow. If you join us from 7 a.m. to 8:30, we'll be talking deeper about it. But these are the games to come. In the Northern Zone, we've got Prison Ladies up against Supreme Ladies. Ashtown Ladies up against the Northern Ladies. Kumasi Sports Academy up against Ampim Dakwa Ladies. Then we've got the Pale Pair up against Fabulous Ladies. This is what we've got for you in the Northern Zone. In the Southern Zone, we have Soccer Intellectuals up against Sea Lions. Police Ladies up against Thunder Queens. We've got Berry Ladies up against Immigration Ladies. There is Lady Strikers up against Hazakas. So, yeah, we look forward to the start of the Women's Premier League down here. Well, now let's move away and talk about the English Premier League fixtures. Last night, we know what happened between Arsenal and Crystal Palace. Always good to see Thomas Partey back. But then it's back to business, and all the teams know they have their work pretty cut out for them. Starting tonight, Wolverhampton Wanderers up against West Brom. Leeds United will play Brighton. There's West Ham United up against Burnley. Fulham against Chelsea. That's a London derby. Very, very tight one. Frank Lampard is looking for the results, and per the performance that Fulham put up against Spurs, it will be a very tight game. And if Lampard is not able to win, I don't know what happens there. But Leicester City up against Southampton. Sheffield United play Tottenham Hotspur. That should be another tasty game, with Sheffield getting the first win of the season already and looking to go hard. Liverpool versus Manchester United is our commentary game on the Joy Sports Arena on Sunday. There's Manchester City up against Crystal Palace. Arsenal will play Newcastle later on Monday. That's it for the English Premier League fixtures, and we'll be looking forward to that. We step into Serie A. AC Milan with all sorts of wonders. They are doing so well, and they look like they will try to pick at least a trophy this season. Which trophy would it be? Would it be the Serie A itself? That would be big. Lazio up against Roma. Bologna up against Hellas Verona. We've got Torino up against Spezia. Sampdoria will play against Udinese. Napoli up against Fiorentina. We've got Crotone up against Benevento. Sassuolo up against Parma. Atalanta play Genoa. Inter Milan versus Juventus. Now, this is a tight game and the biggest one. It really does match what we've got in England, with Liverpool playing Manchester United, and we've got Cagliari up against AC Milan. Special games to come there. Are we going to Spain? Well, there are still special games there, and at least you know by now, Real Madrid could not make it to the final of the Super Cup, and so it's going to be Barcelona playing against Athletic Bilbao, who really shocked Real Madrid there. Let's do some boxing right now, because we know boxer trainer Carl Loco wants measures in place to ensure the right things are done. Very, very important for boxing here in the country, and it's a good time to hear from him.
Most boxers often leave their trainers who nurtured them from the amateur level when they move on to a professional stage. These coaches who have spent their resources and time building these boxers benefit nothing when these boxers choose to move on. One of such coaches is Carl Loco, who groomed former IBF light title winner Rikichi Kome and the likes of Duke Micah. He says there should be a system in place where these boxers, when they are moving on, boxing trainers benefit so that they can be encouraged to unearth more talents.
But same way, after 5 years, after 6 years, after 4 years, the contract finished. You renew. Optional, right? So if he's not renewing, can you force him? No. You understand me? But when it comes to football, again, like I said, we have different categories of taking whatever you have put in as a team. Even recently that Thomas Partey went to Arsenal, Parma was laughing, right? Yes. So you don't care how many years it will take the footballer to get to wherever. You have your development fee.
Mr. Loco also called for honesty and transparency between coaches and their boxers.
Boxing is not like football, whereby a player is just coming to play for a team. The team will sell the player, and the team will get the dividend or the benefit straight, and the player cannot just move from a team A to team B just like that. And look at boxing. Boxing is so different that boxers just leave or can leave their gym to join another gym, and it becomes a problem because the trainer will not feel happy of training the boy for several years, and all of a sudden the boxer will leave and go to different level or different place. So that's a difficult thing. So it will be great and better for boxers, especially, to be honest, to their trainers, and their trainers also to be transparent to the boxers. And with that, we grow.
He believed with such the two parties would have a fruitful working relationship. Kaloko nurtured Richard Comey since the age of 13 until the two parted company in 2017.
And it's important to note that Richard Comey is preparing for, let's say, a redemption battle on the road to try and wrestle back his lost IBF lightweight title. So he's got a bout in, that's next month. We'll be looking forward to that and giving you updates on that. Stories you want to chase on Sports Today later this afternoon. We know as well James Hatton has moved away from the Houston Rockets and now is with the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA. That is absolutely shocking from the stands. And of course, if you're looking at the stories and following it, you feel that yes, what's happening. So what does it all mean? What does it really mean? He's hit a number of egos right there. We'll be paying attention to that as well. You know that the race is on for the start of the Australian Open, and we're already having some news, like Andy Murray has tested positive for COVID-19. A couple of the stars are deciding not to go because there was a flight that was supposed to leave the UK and arrive in Australia. A number of them have missed because of COVID-19. We'll be checking all of that for you and telling you how it all goes with Australia Open that starts on the 8th of February. So much to look forward to this weekend. My name is George Adijuna. That's it for AM Sports. I hope you have a super morning because we've got so much coming your way here on the AM show. Do not go anywhere. Stay good.
So the case is being heard by Chief Justice Kwesi Eninyeboah and Justices Yawa Pew, Mafusau, Nena Megacha, Professor Kotei, Mariama Owusu and Gertrude Tokonu. Mr. Mohammed's legal team first asked that the court allows them make corrections to the petition that has been filed. Mr. Chachuchikata informed the court that it was an inadvertent error that had led to the team asking for a runoff to be organized between Mr. Mahama and the Electoral Commission instead of Mr. Akufo-Addo. Lawyers for the Electoral Commission led by Justin Amenuvo and the President's legal team led by Akoto Ampao opposed the request. Their explanation was that there was a mistake in the request that is seeking to correct a mistake, in that instead of asking to amend the petition, it rather is asking to amend a writ, and so they had pointed out that the court does not allow it. But the court went on recess and returned, and the Chief Justice Kwesi Eninyeboah indicated that the request does not go to the substance of the petition, so it has granted a request for the changes to be made.
We grant the amendment in the 10th page. Let the amended process be found by the close of the day before 4 p.m. today. Yes, the respondents are at liberty to amend their respective answers to the petition on or before 4 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, the 15th of January 2021. The petition is thus adjourned to Tuesday, the 19th of January 2021.
We caught up with Mr. Abraham Amaliba, a member of the NDC's legal team, who has been explaining why they made that particular request.
So all we need to do is to go out there and file it with the Supreme Court, the registry, and that is what is to be done. So this is something we have already done, and what is left is for us to file.
The point your colleagues on the other side made was that you made a mistake by referring to it as a writ instead of a petition.
But that is what I indicated to you, that this is an exhibition. No. This is an exhibition of the trademark incompetence of the EC, because what we filed was a petition and not a writ. And so for them to come up and say that we're making reference to a writ, when indeed on the face of the document was a petition, it's a clear indication of their incompetence.
A member of the President's legal team, Frank Davis, however, disagrees, and he says that it shows that humans make mistakes, and that is the essence of the case that will be arguing this particular matter.
It was obvious from the outset that they had committed errors and mistakes in the petition they filed. This was said by the lead counsel himself, Chachuchikata, that they were going to correct the mistakes. We were opposed to the application in form and substance, but as you heard the court say, we are all human beings and we make mistakes. So the court ruled that even though they had made mistakes, we will permit them to amend so that the first respondent they intended to contest with in their petition is reverted to second respondent, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic. So that was what happened. In essence, the court is telling all of us that we make mistakes. So we should be kind to the errors committed by others.
On 19th January, the court will be sitting yet again, but there are some outstanding issues that it has to deal with. Key amongst them is the matter relating to the initial objection that lawyers for the Electoral Commission and Mr. Akufo-Addo's legal team have already raised. There is also the issues about the pre-trial matters, how the case itself should proceed, how many witnesses to be called to testify orally, which evidence should be made available, at what extent should those evidences to be presented to the court, and what presentation should take place. All those are outstanding issues that the court will address on January 19th. Reporting for Joy News from the Supreme Court, my name is Joseph Akable.
Joseph Akable reporting from the Supreme Court yesterday as the court held its first hearing. We know the panel composition. The issue with the live telecast was also made clear. Indeed, the proceedings yesterday was carried live. Let's have a conversation with spokesperson for two of the sides. Kojo Nkrumah, a spokesperson on Akufo-Addo's team, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's team, and Dr. Abdul Basit Aziz Bamba, a spokesperson on John Dramani Maham's team. Good morning to you both, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good morning, Mama V.
Good morning. And Good morning to your listeners.
Okay, great. I want to start with you, Dr. Basit Bamba, on the issue of the correction. But even before I come to that, the issue of the live telecasts. You didn't even have to move that motion because the court had already decided. I wonder how that came to you. You didn't have to request for it after all.
I think that is a good thing, and we need to commend the Supreme Court for that. As we all know, this is a very, very important case. It's a case in which all Ghanaians should be interested in, not only in terms of the outcome, but in terms also of the details of the proceedings. And the rules of court allows a court to grant, to permit live transmission of the proceedings. So I'm very, very happy that the court on its own, even without the petitioner's lawyer having to move their motion for live transmission, allowed the live telecast of all proceedings. But let me add that in the interest of openness, judicial openness and transparency, I will even go a step further. Not only should we have a live telecast of all proceedings, I think that all processes filed in this case, as well as a verbatim record of all that happens in court in terms of what judges say, in terms of what lawyers say, should actually be posted on the website of the Judicial Service so that we can have openness in these proceedings, in addition to the live telecast that the court has already granted. So I think we need to commend the Supreme Court for allowing the live telecast of the proceedings.
Yeah, but just the second leg of what you said, why is that necessary? We didn't do that back in 2012, 2013.
Well, things have changed. I mean, the global trends now is about open justice. I mean, justice is administered in the name of the people. So the judges essentially are agents of Ghanaians, agents of Ghanaian citizens. And I think when our agents are exercising power in our name, it's important that we know everything about how that power is exercised. And I think that it will be a good thing for openness, for transparency, if in addition to the live telecast, we have the verbatim record of all processes being posted on the website of the Judicial Service. It could be a dedicated website, or just could be just a page on the Judicial website where these proceedings will be posted. And let me say, this is not an unusual demand to make. In many jurisdictions, you can have verbatim record of whatever happens in court on the website of their apex courts. And I think we could do so.
I actually monitored the proceedings on their page, actually, but I'm not sure I saw that, verbatim reports of what was happening. Kojo, what do you make of this suggestion that Dr. Aziz Bamba is bringing on board?
So good morning to your viewers and to Aziz on the other side of the conversation. First of all, we would have been disappointed and surprised if the Supreme Court had done or had directed otherwise. It's the proper thing to do to allow live transmission and openness so that anybody who is minded to follow what is going to transpire in this petition has an opportunity to watch live, see and hear for himself or herself what is transpiring. This comment about a verbatim transcript of the proceedings, in my view, does not necessarily take away or add anything extra. There is nothing more transparent beyond watching for yourself live and hearing for yourself live the exchanges between counsels and the bench, the submissions that are being made, live on television, and most importantly, live on record on several online portals where you can go back yourself and play over and over again and check whether you heard something or you didn't hear something. So it doesn't necessarily add or take anything away. Additionally, all the processes that are being filed by either side are matters of public record. Once you file them in the court registry, they are matters of public record. And that is why you notice, for example, that the original petition and the answers from both respondents are already matters that are out in the public domain. You've got copies of it. I see you referring to it and referring to paragraphs and asking lawyers to explain things to you. So I think that full transparency has already been provided. We would have been disappointed if the direction was otherwise. And publishing it online does not add or take anything away from it.
Let me go back to the panel. Yesterday, even before the court sat, we're playing with the idea of would it be a 9-member panel, 7, but eventually the court settled on 7. Dr. Aziz Bamba, are there comments on the constitution of the panel?
Well, to be frank with you, I was extremely disappointed with the composition of the panel. And it is not to take away anything from the integrity and the competence of the judges on the panel. Look, this is a very, very important case. It's a peculiar case. And in the Fourth Republic, I mean, the first time that we had a case like this was in the 2012 petition. Now, when you have a case like this, a case with high political stakes, about who has been validly elected as the president of the Republic of Ghana. It's always important, despite whatever power the Chief Justice may have in empaneling a court, to make sure that you have a balanced and a fair panel. I do not consider this panel to be fair and balanced for a number of reasons. Now, first, this panel is a departure from what we had in 2012. In 2012, we had a panel of 9, and if my memory serves me right, the Chief Justice did not sit on the panel. Chief Justice Safari Akufu did not sit. She was one of the most senior judges on the panel. And then the most junior judges did not sit. Justice Akamba did not sit. Justice Benin did not sit. So when you look at the panel of 2012, the Chief Justice did not sit. The only senior-most judges who did not sit in addition to the Chief Justice were essentially Justice Safari Akufu. But otherwise, it was the most senior justices who were in panel. Now, this panel, you have a panel of 7 instead of 9, and no reason has been given why this time around we have a panel of 7. Now, there is something that lawyers say, it's actually a legal matter. You often say that your law is actually in a very wretched state when a lot depends on the discretion of the decision maker, because you don't want things to be based on somebody's discretion. You want some guidance, some rules as to how things should be done. And when you look at global trends, often in matters like this, you have the most senior judges of the court sitting on the matter. It happened during the Brexit and what have you. So I would have preferred that instead of having 6 of the judges being NPP appointed judges and 1 judge being an NDC appointed judge, I would have preferred a balance in the panel. Look, often you hear people say that the composition of a panel doesn't matter. It's about judges have taken the judicial oath to be fair, without fear and favor. But that is something we tell first-year law students. I mean, anybody who has studied law and knows law as a living reality knows that the judge that you appear before, matters. It matters a lot. And we have so many academic studies that show that the kind of the person that you meet, the personality of the judge in terms of his principles, the judicial record, and all that matters. So I was a bit disappointed, and I hope that perhaps the panel that we saw yesterday will not be the same panel that will sit on this matter. Nothing prevents the Chief Justice from using one panel just for the purposes of the application yesterday, and a different panel for the hearing. A balanced and diversified panel in such a matter is extremely important. It adds on to the public acceptability of any decision. It also ensures that whatever strong views that anybody wants to express, those views are expressed in the end. The majority will carry the day if there's any dissent at all. Yeah, but Dr. Basit Bamba, are you saying that there's a difference if a judge is appointed by an NPP government or an NDC government? Has that got any implications on the final ruling? It has a lot of implications. If you have followed proceedings in some counties, you realize that often judges have different approaches. They have different principles. They have the way they approach the law may be different. That is why in the US, you have some judges are appointed by Republicans, some judges are appointed by Democrats, and it becomes actually a tug of war as to who should be approved. When you look at the record of some of our judges, we have a sense of how they vote in some cases. Not that they are doing anything wrong, but that may be in line with their judicial principle and approaches. And what I'm saying is that in a matter like this, with high political stakes, it's important that you have a panel that has a diversity of legal approaches and all that. Some judges never disagree with others when they're on a panel, others do. And this is a case where you need a balanced and a diversified panel. And in my view, the panel that we had is not a balanced and diversified panel. I'll come back to you on the possibility of the panel being changed for the hearing itself. But Kojo, is this a matter of concern to your side?
Well, first of all, I think I need to draw your attention and your viewers' attention to something that may appear innocuous, but it is deliberate. The NDC is on a path to smear and undermine the integrity of the Supreme Court and the justices of the Supreme Court. And they are doing that because they are clear in their mind that this petition before the courts is a ruse. And I explain to you. The first evidence you notice is Muntaka Muhammad Mubarak, who goes on national television and alleges, without more, just a mere allegation, that a Supreme Court judge has been involved in calling one NDC member of parliament elect, trying to convince same to vote for Speaker Michael Quaid during the election of Speaker. The real object of that allegation is to begin to poison the wells ahead of this litigation. Make no mistake about it. It is a deliberate, calculated attempt to smear and to bring the Supreme Court and the justices of the Supreme Court into question, even as they commence this hearing. And then now you have this very bogus argument that my good friend Dr. Bamba makes, that if the Chief Justice sits on a panel or does not sit on a panel, justice may or may not be delivered. That when you have a panel of 7 or a panel of 9, it can affect whether or not justice will be delivered. And that when you have an older or a younger bench, it can affect how justice may or may not be delivered. It is one of the most bogus analysis that I have ever heard when it comes to jurisprudence. And I think it is clear that it is part of a calculated effort to bring the Supreme Court and the justices of the Supreme Court into question and into public opprobrium as they commence this exercise of hearing the petition. Prior to all of this, you heard some of the NDC apparatchiks make an argument that they themselves are not even sure they will get justice, and that the courts have not been favorable to them in recent times. I think that if we are serious about building a democracy and building institutions, we ought to be the last persons to undermine the democracy and the institutions of that democracy. If you are serious about going before the courts and putting a credible petition before the courts and getting that petition heard live, with all of your arguments and evidence or the lack of it scrutinized before everybody's eyes, you don't resort to this shenanigans of now bringing the court and the justices into disrepute by comments like this. We all know, as lawyers, that judges have their jurisprudence over the years, yes, but judges of a court of competent jurisdiction hear a matter on the law and the facts that you put before them. In the 2012-2013 presidential election petition, there were judges who had been put on the bench by the previous Kufuor administration, who, in their analysis and in their ruling, disagreed with the MPP's petition and ruled against us. In recent cases, there are judges who have been put on the bench during an NDC administration who have ruled against NDC applications. The same bench, the same panel, is the same panel that yesterday dismissed our affidavits in opposition to the application for leave to amend the petition that was before it. So this bogus attempt to begin to skew the public's minds against the panel is a very dangerous enterprise. And I'd like to encourage our colleagues on the other side to desist from it. Look at what is happening in America. You have a president who loses an election and goes on to tell lies to his supporters to the extent that now they attack the Capitol, some of them with arms.
But that's not exactly what's happening in our country, Kojo.
No, if I may, just a quick response.
Let me land. I was quite silent.
No, I mean you are making some very.
Let me land. I was quite silent to listen to you.
Doc, let's allow him to land. And Kojo, do that real quickly for me so I can get a quick response.
I'm saying that there are parallels between what is happening in America and what is happening in Ghana. When you lose an election, you don't poison the wells about the institutions of state and lie to your supporters that you won the election and that they should go onto the Capitol and do X, Y, Z. People will believe it. So it's not just talking points that you are rattling out there, thinking that you are filling airtime, saying something in defense of
Kojo, what Dr. Bassett says is a matter of fact, isn't it?
If I may land, in the end, you will end up getting some people believing this falsehood. And what it will do is that it will undermine the judiciary and the justice system in this country. And I think we should desist from that.
Dr. Bassett Bamba, I'll give you the opportunity to react, and I've got a question for you.
Yes, if I may just a quick response. I'm quite surprised. I'm actually shocked by the comments by Kojo Nkrumah. Look, the points being made are simple legal points. Any person who knows law as a matter of lived reality and has read all the academic studies about judges, how they rule and what have you, we know judges have different approaches to law. Everybody knows that. Is that something that we don't know? This whole attempt at throwing dust into the eyes of the public, that making a comment about the composition of a panel is about undermining judicial integrity, I think the least said about that, the better. I would never make any comment about an institution that I regard in such high esteem. And I think this attempt to play partisan politics in a simple matter that has to do with just law, I think is not the best way for my colleague to present the issue. But I'm not here to do partisan politics. I'm here to talk about essential legal matters that are backed by facts and backed by evidence. The view I've expressed, and I still maintain that view, that in matters like this, it is important to have a balanced and diversified panel. And I've given reasons. The reason is that in 2012, we had a panel of 9, for example. Now we have a panel of 7. We don't know why we have a panel of 7 instead of a panel of 9.
So, Dr. Bassett Bamba,
So if you disagree, you can disagree with the viewpoint I've expressed. But this whole rhetoric about somebody trying to rubbish an institution of state, I think it's in very bad taste, with all due respect to my colleague.
So I want to ask you, there's Justice Yawapao, who was appointed by an NDC government, specifically by John Dramani Mahama when he was president, added to this panel. The only other person at the Supreme Court is also Justice Puaman. So even if we want to go with the fair composition that you suggest, Dr. Bamba, where would we find the others to give it, as you described, a fair, balanced panel who are representing persons appointed by both administrations, as in both parties?
No, I mean, the issue not is being about, persons appointed by both administrations. Some of these things just have a rule of thumb. This is a very important case. I'm just going to empanel the most senior judges of the Supreme Court, regardless of who appointed them. Here, it becomes something that everybody can understand, right? But what I'm saying is not about maybe impugning the ability of the Chief Justice to empanel a court. What I'm saying is that in matters like this, it's not just a matter of law. It's also a matter of public perception, which is also a very, very important aspect of law. And I would have preferred that the balance, the panel, for example, comprise of the most senior judges of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Especially those who had experience in matters like that. Unless, of course, there are good reasons why that should not be done. But let me make this point again. I think that when we are talking about matters of law and expressing divergent opinion, it is a very, very, very dangerous thing. For the whole thing to be presented as undermining institutions of state. Because when you do that, our supporters and those who tend to listen to us might believe this. And I think as lawyers, we should never attempt to do that. It's not a good thing for us to do for the integrity of our profession and the judiciary.
Mm. Okay, would your team or does your team intend raising an objection or asking for an explanation if the same panel is composed for the hearing?
No, the team will decide, but you also need to know that as a matter of law, the Chief Justice is entitled to empanel any members of the court that he deems fit. So as a matter of law, there's nothing unlawful about what the Chief Justice has done. But all we are saying is that, all I'm saying in particular is that in matters like this, when you have a very balanced and diversified panel with different approaches to law, with different judicial records, it helps. It helps. And I still stand by that comment. There's nothing about that comment that undermines the integrity of the judiciary.
Okay.
Can I respond, Mama V?
Yes, please do.
So my good friend, Dr. Bamba, says that this is a simple legal point that he's advancing, and it's an academic exercise. But I want to remind your viewers that despite the claim he makes that he's not here to do partisan politics, that is exactly what he's doing under the guise of some academic argument. What do you mean when you say a balanced and diversified panel? When the Chief Justice empanels to examine a matter, what is your definition of balance? Is that gender? Is that age? And that is why in his submissions, for example, he concludes by saying that he knows the law. When you start introducing concepts of fairness in composition, then you are suggesting that there is unfairness or there could be unfairness in composition. The rules for empaneling at the Supreme Court are quite clear. Even 3 justices of the Supreme Court sometimes deal with some of the procedural matters that may come before it. And I insist that for persons who want us to have a conversation on law, we can have a conversation that focuses clearly on what is the law about, for example, amendments to petitions before the court. Those are pure legal academic exercises. But when you begin to raise questions about the fairness of composition, and you yourself introduce concepts about who appointed who, etc., you are beginning, Dr. Bamba, to poison the minds of the public about the bench, and it's unhealthy. And this is not the first time. One of your leaders, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, started this exercise. Prior to that, some of your colleagues already started throwing it in the public domain that you don't expect to get justices in the court. Yesterday, when the same bench ruled in your favor that we should sit down and not advance this argument of why we oppose this petition, you were pretty happy with it. But yet, you are commencing this exercise, and I want to suggest that the judicial, like he rightly mentioned, if you read the Constitution, the judicial power in this country, yes, justice emanates from the people, but it's exercised by the judiciary. When you poison the minds of the public against the judiciary like this, you are walking a very tightrope. When we went for the election petition in 2012, 2013, Mama, you can check your records. I do not recall us doing this exercise of poisoning the wells about judges and justices of the Supreme Court. We raised legal issues In your petition, for example, you have spent about 30 out of 35 paragraphs complaining about errors in the declaration. And then in your petition itself, there are a number of errors on the face of the petition. You come back to the court with an application for leave to amend that petition, and that application itself is written with errors. And yesterday, the Supreme Court, I think, was quite clear, even in rebutting us and asking our counsel to sit down, that the paradox in that which you seek is glaring for everybody to see. If you want us to have a debate on those matters and legal matters, those are the matters that we say are simple legal points. They are academic exercises, and they are non-partisan arguments that we can advance for everybody to follow. But do not do this exercise of poisoning the wells about the judges. It's not healthy, Dr. Bamba.
Kojo, I just want to remind you of an exercise that Raymond Atugubo, I remember, carried out. This was an event at Gimpa where, he shared a report analyzing the voting pattern of Ghana's Supreme Court judges, I think from about 1993 to 2018 by, taking political cases and looked at the judges who sat on them and also linking it to when they were appointed. Isn't it, if you like, if we can rise above this?
What was the conclusion of this presentation, Mama?
Purely, I know that there were, divergent views. People didn't welcome that. But I thought that we could move to a point where we can freely talk about these things and analyze them.
Absolutely. I mean, if I may just
my recollection of that, and that's why I asked about the conclusion, was that in the end, the conclusion was not that judges vote according to who appointed them. Mama, is that your recollection of the conclusion?
That's not what I have said. I'm just reminding you
that's the point I'm making.
A research that was carried out that was shared.
It doesn't matter who appoints a judge. If we're all clear, even after that presentation, that there are judges who are appointed by the NDC administration who end up voting against the NDC administration on cases. And I've given you an example of the 2012-2013 petition. There were judges appointed by the Kufuor administration who voted against the MPP candidate's petition.
Okay.
If we are clear that that is what the record is, why does anybody have any business now beginning to poison the wells that, it's not a fair or balanced or diversified panel? I'm saying that these dog whistles that some of our colleagues resort to are dangerous because you know the truth. You know that judges do not decide based on who appointed them on the bench. They decide based on the law and the evidence before them. You're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. Ghanaians, many of them who are not lawyers, are out there. If you keep perpetrating these falsehoods and these false narratives, that is when you get people believing you and getting on the streets, and some of them getting shot and people losing their lives.
Let me give you the last say.
Here in Ghana, it's happening in other parts of the world.
Let me give you the last say on this issue, Dr. Bamba.
If I may just have the last word. I think the deliberate distortions by my colleague in terms of the effect of what I'm saying is to say the least. The least said about it, the better. Look, everybody knows. You are a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. We know that judges have different principles, different approaches to law. We all know that. It's so basic and fundamental, I'm even wondering why you should be having arguments over this. It's so simple. Even the first year law students know this.
Yeah, but nobody's arguing with the fact that judges have different
all I'm saying is, I'm not saying that MPP appointed judges will vote MPP, NDC will vote NDC. No, that doesn't happen. Our judicial record doesn't show that. The point that I'm making is that in matters like this, have a diversity of different legal approaches, as defined by different styles of reasoning and all that. It's such a simple matter that I'm even surprised that we have all this rhetoric and polemics about undermining institutions, about academic exercises and what have you. I think the important point that should come out of this discussion is that, look, the Chief Justice has empaneled a court. We hope that the panel would do, and I don't have any doubt at all in my mind that they will do a good job. But I'm entitled to express that view. Based upon all that I know about law, based upon all the jurisprudence that I know, I would have preferred that the panel was a balanced and more diversified, particularly by just empaneling the senior most judges of the Supreme Court. And I still maintain that view. And I don't see how maintaining that view in any way undermines the credibility or the legitimacy of the judiciary. And any attempt to present it otherwise, I think, is just shameful partisan politics.
So why don't we move on? I want to ask you, Dr. Bamba. So you sought to correct an error, but did you make another error in what you sought to use to correct the error? It's quite complicated.
Okay. Maybe that's what this one is a pure legal matter, so that maybe the partisan bickering will be out of it. Yes, in terms of what we went to court to do yesterday, yes, definitely. You realize that in the petition there was some misreference to first respondent and second respondent. In some places, instead of second respondent, the petition says first respondent, giving the impression that one of the reliefs that the petitioner was seeking was a runoff between the Electoral Commission and then the second respondent. It's always it's proper and fair that such an error should be corrected. And I need to make this important point, why we took the pains to have the error corrected. Human beings are fallible. We all make mistakes. The most important thing about making mistakes is that when you do make them, acknowledge the mistakes that you have made and take lawful processes to correct those mistakes. So all we did was to file an application in the Supreme Court. The other parties were served, the EC was served, the lawyers of our president were served. The court also had its own copy. They looked at the reasons that we had given before the court gave a determination. And in this petition, I think that the broader thing about this petition is about when somebody makes a mistake, having the humility and courage to make the mistake through lawful means. And all we are saying is that the EC now admits that it made mistakes. That the declaration of the 9th of December was flawed because it contained an error.
Yeah, but did you make a mistake yesterday again?
That one is a technical legal point. I don't want us to get into these technical legal points.
As ordinary persons, we hear it, so that's why I asked the question, so you can explain it to us.
Yeah. If I may explain. The application talked about a rate, amending a rate and then a petition, right? Now, technically speaking, a petition is different from a rate. At the same time, a rate also includes a petition. So, for example, when you go to our High Court rules, CI 147, a rate is included in very, very broad terms to include a petition. So it was just a terminological issue between the parties. And luckily for us, the Supreme Court didn't want to get into any of these things. The Supreme Court was clear in its mind that no matter the label used, whether it's a rate or petition, what was being amended was a petition. And that's why it didn't give any serious consideration to the opposition that were raised by the Electoral Commission and lawyers for the president. Yeah, so whether or not there's a mistake, I think it's just a terminological, it's an issue of label, and lawyers may disagree as to whether or not it was a mistake.
Okay, but Kojo, so this was quite minor, it wasn't significant, but your team opposed it. Was it just some kind of strategy?
So first, let me note that on a lighter note, I find it interesting that Dr. Maba says that this one is now a pure legal matter. So let's
it's just trying to maybe preempt what
No, I get it. It was just on the lighter note. But listen, yes, it's a technical legal point, but we should discuss it. Because what my friend describes as, and if you listen to his choice of words, he initially described it as a misreference. And then later he considered an error. I transcribed his words, says an error. And then proceeds to say that, yes, human beings are fallible. But the real gravamen of the argument is that when you make a mistake, you take lawful processes to correct them. I transcribed his words. The essence of what is before the courts yesterday, which the courts decided on, agrees with his submissions that he has made. That human beings are fallible, and that when you make a mistake, you take lawful processes to correct them. But that is not the embodiment of what Mr. Mahama and the NDC have been up to in the last 1 month or so. Mr. Mahama and the NDC have told the people of Ghana that 1, they have all the pink sheets, 2, they have collated all the pink sheets, and 3, they have won the presidential election. Let not people forget this. Mr. Mahama has held a press conference. It's been repeated by several of his acolytes and party leaders, and they have all the pink sheets, they put them together, and they've won the presidential election.
But Kojo, at this point,
if I may,
what matters most, isn't it what is contained in those court documents?
Then he comes to court. But all of those are part of pieces of evidence. If we do get to a full trial stage, we'll have an opportunity to get into it. Then he comes to court, and supported by his spokespersons, he says that that is not his argument. And that his argument is that the Electoral Commission has made a mistake in the declaration. And consequently, I mean, if you look at the entire petition, consequently, based on the mistake that the Electoral Commission made in the declaration on the 9th, which they sought to correct by a press statement on the 10th, there are mistakes in there. And then they say, consequently, or as a result of those mistakes, essentially they're asking for a rerun of that election. Now, here's the point. As the Supreme Court mentioned yesterday, even in rebutting our lawyers, the judges said, look at the document before you. In substance, is it a writ or a petition? Yes, they may have made mistakes in their original petition, which in attempting to correct, they have misreferenced or committed an error or made another mistake before this court by describing as a writ. But in substance, what is before you is a petition. Ours was a tactical opposition to their application for leave. And what it did was that it exposed the reality that human beings are fallible and people make mistakes. And so if they have made a mistake and they want to use legal processes to correct it, they are liberty so to do. So why is it that when the Electoral Commission makes a mistake in the declaration, not even the official Form 13, not even the official Form 13, in the verbal declaration and in the press statement the next morning after, why is it that when they are legally correcting a mistake in that declaration, they should be stopped from making the argument that human beings are fallible and that they are now not allowed to take lawful processes to correct them? Those are the substantive arguments that we have before the courts. And I'm sure that if we do get into a full trial, we'll get into some of those arguments. In any case, even before then, we have a preliminary legal objection.
I was going to ask, has there been a decision on that in terms of when that will be heard?
Come again, Mama V.
Kojo, has there been a decision in terms of when that will be heard? Because you have a preliminary objection, the Electoral Commission also does.
Yes. So, I mean, the NDC came with a petition. Yesterday, what happened was that they sought leave of the court to go and amend their originating process, which was the petition. The court gave them up to 4 p.m. yesterday to amend and has given us leave that by 4 p.m. today, if we want to make amendments to our response, we can. On Tuesday, when we go back to court, the court is now going to do the pretrial matters. And then we believe we'll most likely set a date to hear our submissions. If you look at CI, I think 99 and even 127, it's most likely they will ask for written submissions. But we will be looking for an opportunity to make oral arguments, to go viva voce, and explain our preliminary legal objection. And hopefully, I'm sure our colleagues on the other side will have an opportunity to respond to that.
Okay, so Dr. Bamba, were you able to correct the errors by 4 p.m. yesterday?
Yes, we filed an amended petition correcting the errors. So we are hoping that by 4 p.m. today they would have filed an amended answer. But let me quickly react to some of the points that my good friend has made. Look, when a matter is in court, we stick to what has been filed in court, the arguments, the facts presented in court. I think this attempt to refer to other matters and introduce political statements, things said by others, I don't think it is very, very helpful in terms of public understanding of what is in court. The NDC had the presidential candidate of the NDC, His Excellency President Dramani Mahama. He had options. He was at liberty to present this case as he having won the case. He was at liberty to present this case that based upon the declaration of the EC, there was no clear-cut winner, so there should be a runoff. Lawyers, based upon the facts available to them, assume or take certain strategies. And if his lawyers have advised him that based upon all that they have seen, this is the best strategy, to adopt. I think we should be fair to the lawyers and not try to make political statements, partisan political statements.
Can I ask Dr. Pamba a direct question?
It doesn't show that he has abandoned any position. It is just that sometimes, as we lawyers know, it's not everything that you may be able to prove in court, right? So your best bet is to take a position that you'll be able to substantiate in court using the relevant law and principles and all. And a quick reaction to this point about the mistakes that have been made. The EC made mistakes in its ninth declaration. In its 10th declaration, the EC made additional mistakes. In its answer, the EC has now given us completely new results. What we have now is that we have 3 sets of results. The results of the 9th of December 2020, the corrected results of the 10th of December 2020, and then at paragraph 24 of their answer, they are giving us completely new figures. Now, all we are saying is that human beings are fallible. If you have made mistakes, use lawful processes to correct those mistakes. And our position is that the EC, unlike us, have not used any lawful processes to correct these mistakes. And that is why this matter is before the Supreme Court. If the EC had taken it upon itself to correct the mistakes, by enacting the appropriate law, because the law that we have now, which is CI 135, this is the Declaration of President Instrument Act of 2020. That law is based upon the flawed declaration of the 9. That law hasn't changed. That law hasn't been amended. That law hasn't been revoked. So if you are talking about human beings making mistakes, I would have thought that by now the EC would have done the right thing, revoked that law which was based on the flawed results, but the EC hasn't done so, and that is why this matter.
Dr. Bamba, direct question, Mamavi.
Now it is for the court. It's for the court to determine whether or not the EC lawfully corrected the errors or not.
Okay, Kojo, let's hear your question.
Yeah. So, first, let me make a statement, and then I'll ask Dr. Bamba a direct question. The fact remains that whether you look at what was said on the 9th or on the 10th or in the answer of the EC, when you pick the pink sheets from all the 275 constituencies or the 38,000 polling stations, Nana Akufo-Addo got 51% plus. Hanging on to these errors, like you argued in court yesterday, doesn't change that fact. But here's my question. I've heard Dr. Bamba say that it is not everything that you say in public that you can substantiate in court. And therefore, if your lawyers tell you that this is the best strategy in court, we should forget or forgive all that you may have said in the public domain. I want to ask him a direct question. Is he saying that it is okay for a presidential candidate to tell his supporters and the people of Ghana and the international community that he has won an election and go to court and abandon that claim and now make new claims and hang on to these new claims that there were errors in the declaration of the 9th and the 10th and paragraph 24. And therefore, those errors are as innocuous as they are and as simple as the fact that they don't change the 51% of Nana Akufo-Addo are the ones that we should now hold on to and forget his claim, which got people on the streets, which got people dead, that he had won this election. Is that the argument Dr. Bamba is making?
I'm a lawyer. I make legal arguments. I don't make political arguments. But
you make political arguments as well. You've been making political arguments this morning.
A quick reaction to this direct question. If a former president sincerely believes, based upon what he has seen, that he won, he's entitled to put that out in the public domain. In fact, he has that sense of accountability to his supporters, to those who voted for him, to make that claim. As to whether or not he should continue to assert that claim in court will be based upon the advice that he is given by his legal advisors. And I think that as lawyers, sometimes we tend to be very, very strategic in how we approach cases. And that is why this case has been presented the way that it has been presented. I don't think it takes anything away from whatever claim that has been made about who won or didn't win the election. So there's nothing inconsistent about previous declarations about somebody not winning and then going to court and for the purposes of legal argument, and for the purpose of adjudication, presenting a case that you think will be easier to understand, will be simple and direct. I don't see any inconsistency between them. In any case, the two is like comparing apples and oranges. What is said in the political domain is completely different from what we as lawyers are supposed to do, present to the court for the purpose of adjudication.
Well, so let me conclude my reaction.
Yeah, but
I'm very happy you have made these comments, because now you are demonstrating to the people of Ghana, not just the judges in court, but the people of Ghana, that there's no correlation between the claims that you make on political platforms and the arguments that you are now, when you are now put to strict proof, the ones that you can submit before the court. The facts, Mama V, are that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at all material times has crossed more than 50%, which is the threshold. The fact is that despite the claims of Mr. Mahama, which he made brazenly before the whole world, that he had won this election, now when he's put to strict proof, now when he's asked to bring his pink sheet, the 38,000 pink sheets that prove that he has won, he abandons that and now is clinging to the straws of errors on the face of a declaration that was made.
Okay, Kojo, that will
Yet when his own errors are put to him in his petition, he says human beings are fallible. They can make mistakes.
Okay, that's your...
We'll live to see the outcome of this matter.
That's your interpretation to what has happened. To be fair, one of the reliefs that they are seeking is to declare that Akufo-Addo did not win the 2020 elections and that there should be a rerun of the election. But I want to ask you...
And they have no evidence to back that.
Well,
they have all the 38,000 pink seats. They have all the 38,000 pink sheets. Let them put it on the table and we'll all do the arithmetic.
Maybe that may be your strategy, Kojo. Perhaps that's not their strategy. That's why that's not playing out.
That is the logical strategy that everybody uses. You add up all the pink sheets and you tell what 1 + 1 + 1 is.
We've only been here once before in 2012. So let's see how this one plays out. But Kojo, I wanted to ask you, would it be necessary for your team to also make amendments? So therefore, are you making amendments today?
Well, we have a meeting this morning. I'm in Parliament currently. We have a meeting this morning where the lawyers, having studied the amended petition, will make a formal decision on whether or not they file any amendments to us. And I'm sure if they decide so to do, we will let the good people of Ghana know.
Okay, I want to read some messages that we've received on this conversation, and then Kojo, I have an interesting picture that I'll show to you. You say you're in Parliament, so this is where you are, is Job 600, right?
No, I'm just outside the chamber block. This is my office just outside the chamber block. Our colleagues are already seated in Parliament. They've been for some hours now.
All right, so what we are showing live pictures from Parliament, so we see that one side has completely been taken over by the NPP and the other side is empty. Some members have said that they went to Parliament as early as 4 a.m. But I want to read comments based on the conversation that we've just had. This one, and the hashtag is AM Show. I love the composure of your panel. Very decent interview. No unnecessary interjections whatsoever. Very intellectual. This other person says, to do otherwise would amount to irresponsible use of power and an open bias in favor of Akufo-Addo, who himself was beneficiary of the live telecast of trial in which he was the petitioner. It is important we appreciate that power is not knowledge, but the converse is. Hashtag AM Show. This one says, and who told him we're interested in this? First of all, how important is it when the eagerness and the seriousness is being messed up and taken away by the opposition errors in their petition? 2016 taught Ghanaian better than what he and Mahama NDC are thinking. And I'm not sure, but I've read the comment. These are comments from Twitter. And that's the comments at least we're getting from Twitter on this conversation. Gentlemen, I thank you so much for your time. Dr. Bamba, we'll see what happens in court on Tuesday, God willing, and we can have a conversation. But Kojo, I wanted to show you the pictures from Parliament and ask you, when are you taking your seats? Why did your members go so early? What's the point? Parliament will start sitting from about 10 a.m.
So, Mamavi, your producer asked me to step out at 7:15 to join you for an interview. My office is just outside the chamber block. I am in the chamber building. My office is just outside the chamber block. Some of our colleagues were here from as early as 4 a.m. For some of us, it's our regular time coming in here. But the point is this. We're clear in our mind that we constitute the majority in this 8th parliamentary caucusing. And we are clear in our mind that our colleagues on the other side are electing to resort to unparliamentary behavior in an attempt to undermine that. And our colleagues are very clear that they will no longer countenance unparliamentary behavior. And that's why you notice that I think as early as about 4 a.m., some were already in the chamber and are looking forward to Mr. Speaker, when he takes his seat, making what is clear in law and in fact well pronounced, so that those who believe that they can resort to nefarious acts are guided not to do so.
But let's be clear, Kojo, Mr. Speaker has not ruled on that.
No, he hasn't, and we're expecting that this morning when he takes his seat, he will rule on that.
But in the meantime, you've taken the side that by convention, we see the majority take.
Because that is a matter of fact and a matter of law that we constitute the majority, and we're clear in our minds that this is our rightful place. I mean, if our colleagues on the other side say that it doesn't matter who sits anywhere because it's 137, 137, then they shouldn't be worried at all, because then they can also sit anywhere else.
I've got another question just before you go, but I don't know if you speak for the government.
Yes, I am the President's representative at the Ministry of Information currently, though my tenure as Minister for Information expired on the 6th of January. Great. So if there's a question for government that I can answer, I'll do well to answer.
Please, when are we getting the lists of ministers?
Soon.
When you say soon?
Soon.
Has there been a delay? And I use delay only because I remember in his first term, we got the list. I think just about 10th January, we had gotten almost all the names.
This is not a new administration. This is the second term of the Akufo-Addo administration. It comes at a time when he has now got 16 regions. And if you read the Constitution, there is a need to also have regional balance in the constitution of cabinet and the government. Yes, majority of ministers must come from parliament, but it also comes at a time when, and I think I have the permission of the president to tell you this, that the president will be constituting a government that is smaller in size than what he constituted in his first term, having completed the first term agenda. All of those dynamics together, and then adding to it the processes of forming a government, where he will now have to engage each of these persons and explain to them the specific mandates that he expects them to undertake when he puts them in a particular ministry, especially in a case where some ministries may have been put together, or in a case where some ministries may no longer be in existence and therefore their work is being added to another ministry. It takes a bit more time so to do. There are also persons who will not reappear in President Akufo-Addo's administration. And he has to go through a process of engaging with them, thanking them for their service and explaining to them whatever new capacities that he expects them to serve in. You would therefore understand that it will not come with the same speed and time that his very first administration came with. And so under the circumstances, I think we are on track on the president's program, and very soon he will start making those announcements.
I have heard 80 appointees. I've also heard no deputies with the regional ministerial positions. Can you confirm that?
God bless you for what you're hearing, but I cannot confirm or deny any of those.
Are you going to the Foreign Affairs Ministry is also one of the rumors?
I've heard a lot of things as well, but confirming or denying is not something I'll do this morning.
Kojo, I'll leave you so you can go and take your seat. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mama. We wish you all the best.
I wish you the same. Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, of course, speaks for the government, but on our conversation on the election 2020 petition, he was speaking in his capacity as one of the spokesperson for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's legal team. We also had Dr. Aziz Bamba, who speaks. Oh, you're there. Do you want to make a comment on the 8th Parliament?
I think this 8th Parliament is likely to be might be the most interesting of the parliament since we've had in the 4th Republic. And I look forward to observing keenly what happens in that parliament. I wish you all the best, my good friend, Mr. Krumer, John Krumer.
Thank you, Dr. Bamba. Wish you same as well.
Dr. Bamba and Kojo, just a second, maybe 30 seconds. So there's a definition for majority leader and minority leader, but there's no definition for minority group, majority group. Does it make a difference?
It doesn't, because first of all, when you are interpreting law, the law must be all read together as a whole, not just one textual part of it. And when you put it all together, Parliament has caucuses. There's a majority caucus and a minority caucus. The majority caucus is made up of the party or parties that come together to form more than half of the number of seats in the House. In this instance, it's quite clear. Yes, 137. There's an independent candidate who elects to caucus with one side, and that is what will translate into who becomes the majority caucus and the minority caucus. The Speaker has already directed that this independent member of Parliament, the MP for Fomena, should indicate so that he can determine what the caucuses are. My understanding is that he's replied or he's responded to Mr. Speaker's directive. And following that, that should be quite clear where we stand now.
Dr. Bamba?
I think it's interesting. I mean, clearly there are gaps in the standing orders of Parliament. The standing orders of Parliament do not deal with a situation where you have equality of membership, where you have the same number of MPs for the political parties, right? The argument that my good friend is making raises further arguments as whether or not when we talk about a party also includes an independent candidate who is not allied to any political party. But I think these are matters. That is why we have a leader. The Speaker is a person with the competence and legal authority to rule on these matters. I'm sure the requisite legal arguments will be presented to the Speaker, and based on the facts and the law and his own experience and knowledge, he will make a determination. So let's all wait patiently.
Interestingly, when Speaker Bagman today was, I think, majority leader at the time, and Justice Bamford Addo was in the chair, and persons like Samia Nkrumah, etc., were independent members of Parliament, this question of the place of the independent candidates and how it affects the size of a caucus was well addressed, and there's precedent to it, and we don't expect a departure from that precedent.
Okay. Yeah, so let's leave these matters to the Speaker. He has authority to determine these matters. I'm sure he will listen to the divergent legal arguments and then make a determination.
Thankfully, that will be in about less than 2 hours. Dr. Bamba, I am so grateful for your time. Kojo Nkrumah, thank you as well. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning again to listeners and viewers.
All right. Okay, so that's it. You can see, the picture from Parliament in terms of how they're composing. I don't see any member on one of the sites. So I guess that's been reserved for the NDC caucus in Parliament. Hopefully we don't get any kind of misunderstanding before the Speaker makes that determination in terms of who forms majority and who forms minority. Our cameras are already there. Be sure that we will keep you updated on everything that happens in Parliament. Sitting is about 10 a.m. this morning. But let's talk about the Joy FM 90s Jam. This year, it's going to be a virtual edition. It will be held in the studios of Joy FM 99.7, and it will be streamed live on Hits FM, Joy Prime, My Joy Online, and all our social media platforms. Fans of the annual event will have the opportunity to join in the jams in the studio via Zoom. So all platforms connected. You can listen on radio on Hits FM, on Joy FM. You can watch on television on Joy Prime. You can also watch online on myjoyonline.com. You can get involved via Zoom, and let's have fun. And we're doing this, of course, because we want to respect the COVID-19 protocols, but we also want to enjoy sounds of Lord Kenya or Brafwo. I mean, what's your favorite 90s artist? What's your favorite song from the 90s? You can connect and then you can request. We've got DJ Black, we've got Andy Dusty, we've got Sammy Forsing. They will be rocking us the whole night from 7 p.m. on the Joy FM 90s Jam. That's it. That's DJ Black. He will do his thing. Andy Dusty right there. And of course, Sammy Forsing. And Lexus Bill also. And so this is a whole pack. Oh, there's Grandmaster DJ Victor, who will be a guest DJ. Billy Ocean is also on the bill. I'm not going to be missing this one. Definitely not for anything. So listen, you'll be having fun, be enjoying music from the 90s. Your favorite DJ is definitely in here, and they will be dishing it out just the way you like it. So you've got to make a date. It's been 12 months since the Upper West Regional Hospital started operations. Correspondent Rafiq Salam in this report reviews the operations of a hospital that has attended to over 18,000 outpatients and performed more than 5,000 surgeries. Here's his report.
Akufo-Addo commissioned the Upper West Regional Hospital on 18th August 2019, but it started opening its doors to patients on January 9, 2020. The construction of the over $51 million magnificent state-of-the-art turnkey project was expected to be completed in 2014. It, however, delayed owing to some constructional and administrative challenges. 5 months after the pomp and pageantry that characterized its commissioning, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar Boaji, led members of the Ghana Health Services Council to open the hospital after a brief ceremony at the forecourt of the facility. The mantle of leadership of the hospital was handed over to renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Robert Amesia. The operation of the hospital over the one-year period had not been smooth sailing, as recounted by the hospital's head of administration, Francis Lugunia. The hospital started operation without seed fund from the government and has to depend on the benevolence of its cadre staff.
Within the first few days, staff had to even contribute money from their own pockets to buy some few consumables, to get the hospital started.
The hospital has one vehicle to take care of its transportation needs. Head of finance at the hospital, John Sakad Larry, spoke of the frustration they go through with the usage of the vehicle.
You have to run up and down a big hospital like this without transport. And even in our banking activity, we are not supposed to go to bank with any private means. So you can imagine we are all scrambling for this one vehicle. If you are ready to go to bank, you have to wait for somebody, if he is somewhere with their car, to come before you are able to go. So we need a whole lot of resources.
Another area of concern was the recruitment of staff for the hospital. Deputy Director of Nursing Services, Linda Okalimetal, opined the number of nurses and midwives required for the hospital to function effectively and efficiently should not be less than 350. Yet, they started with a paltry 147.
The number required to start this hospital, looking at the number of units within the hospital, the various departments and the units, and then the number of beds that are available in each unit. For each unit, we have a 40-bed capacity for the medical, surgical, the case ward is 48. And each ward is supposed to have at least the minimum 25 staff to run the 3 shifts. And I have almost about 17 units. So if I'm multiplying 25 by that, means I have to be getting almost more than 300 staffs. But I started with 147.
Though the number of medical doctors at the start has increased over the one-year period, emergency physician and clinical care coordinator Dr. Emmanuel Steve Blankson is of the opinion that there's still room for improvement.
From the number 4 up to 16 and counting. Initially, we were just having myself, the medical director, who is the orthopedic surgeon, and then an ONG specialist and a medical officer. Now we have another general surgeon who has returned from school, as well as another physician specialist, and we've had more than about 10 medical officers that we started. So this has helped us a lot as our patient load has now increased. Now with our visibility, a lot more referrals are coming, and we have been able to do it. But as a regional hospital, this is woefully inadequate.
Medical Superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Robert Amesia, ran me through the number of medical and surgical cases that the hospital has attended to in this year's operation.
The interesting thing about our hospital is that all the specialists, even though we are few in the region, are concentrated in this hospital. So it's like a referral hospital for the region. So for the 1 year, the over 18,000 people that we have seen, I'm sure if we were not here, they would have had to find their way to other regions for services. So that is not a mean achievement. When it comes to the people that we admitted to the various wards, we talk of almost over 5,000 admissions. Majority of these admissions are surgeries that are done. We have an obstetrician gynecologist, so we have people who come with gynecological emergencies and also elective gynecological problems like fibroid necrosis, tumors, etc. So if you go to the ONG unit, they have conducted over 500 surgeries. And then when you come to the unit of which I'm part, we have conducted over 1,000 surgeries. When you put all that together, that is over 1,500 surgeries.
At the surgical ward of the hospital, there are dozens of patients who hail from other regions in the country, apart from the Upper West region. Alima Ibrahim hails from Obuasi in the Asante region. She has a condition that requires the attention of an orthopedic surgeon. Another is a civil engineer, Yakubu Ali, who works in Ketekrachi in the Oti region and had an accident on his way to the region.
They have attended to me. I think Dr. Robert himself did the operation to get the pelvic fracture fixed, and I have been put on traction for the past 3 weeks, and it's getting better. Yes, it would have been very, very difficult. Probably I would have been taken outside the region for treatment because I went to the Wa Municipal Hospital first, and from there they referred me here. So probably if this facility was not here, I would have been thinking about going outside the region for treatment.
So in terms of costing...